Well, a warm welcome to everyone joining us online today for this webinar on the future of Australian aid for trade, challenges and opportunities in digital trade and e-commerce. I'd like to start by acknowledging and paying our respects to the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we in South Australia gather on. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of the Kaurna people to country, and we respect and value their past, present, and ongoing connection to the land and cultural beliefs. I am Professor Peter Draper. I'm Executive Director of the Institute for International Trade at the University of Adelaide. We're a trade policy-focused research centre that conducts academic and policy-oriented research, as well as teaching and training programs across the Indo-Pacific region and beyond. We have a particularly keen interest in helping developing countries to navigate the increasingly complex world of trade policies. Now, today's discussion focuses on the recently concluded Joint Statement Initiative, or JSI for short, on e-commerce. JSIs, for a bit of background, are plurilateral initiatives negotiated by WTO members who are seeking to advance specific objectives in the multilateral trading system where there are gaps in existing WTO rules or frameworks. Now, e-commerce and digital trade are critical and rapidly evolving enablers of global trade, and it's very important for developing countries to harness them to maximize their development impacts. Aid for trade can play an important role in this process. We are delighted to be partnering with Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade to deliver this webinar today. And so it gives me great pleasure to invite Senator the Honourable Don Farrell, Australia's Minister for Trade and Tourism, to provide our opening ministerial address. Minister. And you'll need to unmute, Minister.
Am I
Yes, perfect.
broadcasting now? Thank you. I've just got a guest from Sweden staying with me at the moment. I started writing to him in 1968, before most of you were born. After seeing his name mentioned in the Adelaide Advertiser kids section, and this is the first time I've managed to convince him to come to Adelaide, but I had a press conference this morning about electoral reform, and then I had a little break between that and this, and so I took him for a little drive along North Terrace and to have a look at Adelaide University, where I spent 5 wonderful years. So very good there. All right, well, look, I'm very pleased to be joining this webinar, and can I thank the Adelaide University Institute of International Trade for their role in organising this, and particularly thanks to Jim and Craig. This is in fact the second event I've done with the group this month, and I was very pleased to speak to 30 really bright emerging leaders in Indonesia's trade department, and we had lots and lots and lots of selfies, which was excellent. And I'd acknowledge and thank Her Excellency Secretary of State Cam Rang from the Cambodian Ministry of Commerce. Great to see you here today. I was once travelling to Angkor Wat in 1975. I was in Vientiane, and the plane came in, and the suggestion was it may not be such a good time to go. So it was another 30 years before I got there, but I did finally get there, and it's a wonderful, wonderful place to visit. I also Thank Sylvie from the Samoan Export Manufacturers, Rebecca Warner from Palladium Group for joining us today, and of course Jane Drake-Brockman from the Institute for moderating the webinar. And today I'm here to talk about some emerging and important areas of international trade. It's become a little bit more urgent in the last week or two, if you hadn't noticed. In particular, e-commerce as well as and international developments. Australia is leading work in this area through the World Trade Organization, including the WTO's Aid for Trade initiative, in place now for 20 years. It's played an important role boosting economic activity right across the developing world, and Australia's strong commitment to providing aid for trade in the Indo-Pacific helps our partners meet their economic goals. In fact, aid for trade represents 22% of our overseas development assistance, which is over 1 billion Australian dollars. And over 70% of that goes to our Indo-Pacific partners. It includes support for infrastructure, energy, agriculture, capacity building on trade rules and regulations, and trade facilitation and finance. All of this work makes it easier for our neighbours to join international value chains and boost their own trade. Here in Australia, trade actually supports 1 in 4 jobs. And we know that trade is vital to producing the incomes of our people, as well as the people in our region. That's why we are so focused on ensuring that our aid dollars help boost trade outcomes for our friends, whether in Southeast Asia, the Pacific, or beyond. Because trade creates jobs and it boosts wages. And in developing countries, e-commerce is playing a bigger role in creating jobs and helping bridge the digital divide. Digital trade helps businesses of all sizes to access customers from around the world. By opening online trade, it helps developing countries access international markets, often from the palm of their hands using smartphones. Australia, alongside Japan and Singapore, is working up a new agreement on electronic commerce. This agreement is a major achievement. After 5 years of negotiations involving 91 WTO members, we now have an agreement that is set to deliver rules for faster, cheaper, fairer, and more secure digital trade. For consumers, the agreement offers strengthened protections when buying online and increases measures to protect their personal data. Australia recognises the role of aid for trade that it plays in ensuring the benefits of free and open trade to flow to all. Through our wide-ranging aid for trade efforts, we will continue work with our partners to address emerging trade and development challenges and opportunities like those presented by digital trade and e-commerce. So thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you, and best of luck in this terrific webinar. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Minister, for those reflections. I think they provide a crucial anchoring for our panelists, to whom we now turn. So I would like to introduce Jane Drake-Brockman to moderate the panel discussion. Jane is my colleague at the Institute, being one of our visiting fellows. But for anyone following broader services trade discussions, she is well known to be one of the world's leading experts on the topic. And in addition to her other roles, Jane is also co-convener of the Asia Pacific Services Coalition. So over to you, Jane.
Thank you very much, Peter, and thank you, Senator. Thank you for addressing us today. I think there's very little need, following your remarks, for me to introduce this topic any further. But perhaps I could just add a few words on the kind of global perspective. If we take perhaps the Aid for Trade at a Glance report written by the OECD and the WTO for 2024, we see globally that there has actually been a resurgence in aid for trade activity since the pandemic, which I guess partly reflects the drop in trade during the pandemic and the need to boost things back up. But it also reflects the fact that trade and as you said, Minister, access to global value chains is a very prominent part of most countries' national development strategies. And the response to trade being given that prominence is a continued flow of aid for trade from donor countries. And in a nutshell, in 2022, I think total commitments, not quite disbursements yet, but total commitments globally increased more than 30% and reached a new peak of $65 billion. So the activity globally is very real, and it reflects a lot of alignment between donor countries' perspectives on the importance of trade and partner countries' perspectives on the need precisely for trade as a driver of jobs and wage increase. There was perhaps something interesting, however, in that global reporting, which was also a sense that some new directions might be necessary to reflect current realities in the global economy, and the ministers referred to the key ones, which I think we all want to focus on. So traditionally, aid for trade probably went to trade facilitation, to agriculture and manufacturing, and we do see a bit of a shift in interest to trade and services, to digital enablement, to the green transition, to women and youth employment in particular. And one thing that report did particularly pick up was the fact that there is more scope to do more on the trade policies and regulations a set of issues, and the minister referred to the importance of this in Australia's own approach to aid for trade, the capacity building that Australia does in that direction, because digital connectivity and e-commerce are increasingly seen as transformative development forces. So I think globally, we're seeing a very similar picture to that which is guiding Australia's approach to aid for trade. But we need to tease this out by talking to some of the partner countries and to representatives who can tell us what it's like on the ground. And so I'm going to just quickly introduce all three all at once and then turn to them one at a time. So Her Excellency Tekreth Kamrang, the Secretary of State, Ministry of Commerce, Cambodia, and a great welcome to you, Kamrang. We also then have a representative from the Samoan Association of Export Manufacturers, Sylvie Salanoa, the manager of Melalani Body Care, and we look forward to hearing of your business experience on the ground. And Rebecca Warner, who is the Program Director of the Market Development Facility in Palladium. So we have three fabulous female speakers, I'm proud to say, and I turn first to Her Excellency Kamrang.
Thank you so much, Professor James. First of all, I would like to send my respect to His Excellency Don Farrell, Senator and Australian Minister for Trade and Tourism, Professor Jane Brockman, Director, Institute for International Trade, Professor Peter Draper, Executive Director of Institute for International Trade. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, good mornings. It is my great honors and privilege to participate in this important webinar on the futures of Australian aid for trade. And I also would like to thank Adelaide University for organizing this important webinar. Please allow me to share with you on the Cambodia experience and best practices on the Aid for Trade initiative, especially the Australian Aid for Trade program, which have been playing very important roles for development in Cambodia. As you may know, in the past 2 decades, Cambodia has been making significant achievement to maintain her economic growth around 7% before COVID-19. And in terms of trade, in 2003, we have only $4 billion US, but in 2022, our trade volume increased to $50 billion US. And right now, Cambodia is on the way to graduation in 2029, but we also become middle income country in the year 2015. So this achievement due to the collective efforts of the people and government of Cambodia, but also with the support from partner countries, including Australia. And especially to the DFARC, Australia has been one of the significant partners to support and stand with Cambodia on this journey of development. In terms of aid for trade, Cambodia has been considered as a front runner among LDCs in effective utilizing of the Aid for Trade program, supported by Multi-Donor Trust Fund, the WTO, which name Enhanced Integrated Frameworks, EIF, of which Australia is one of the member donors. So far, Cambodia was the first pilot country selected for conducting diagnostic trade integration strategy in 2001, and later the first country to update diagnostic study in 2007, and then become the Cambodia Trade Integration Strategies updated in 2019, which was launched during the Global Aid for Trade Review in Geneva. So following the formulation and successful implementation of the Cambodia Trade Integration Strategy, the e-commerce strategy has been established in 2020, following by the implementation of e-commerce project called Go for E-Camps. So this project is to build capacity, empower women, and promote export for women-owned businesses through e-commerce platform. In addition, DFARC Australia also assists the implementation of the project through the Trade Voting, this is the name of the project, and currently support the Cambodia on the development of the digital trade policy for the next 5 years. The Ministry of Commerce is currently utilizing the assistance from Australia through Cambodia-Australia Partnership for Resilient Economic Development called CAPRED to develop an FTA portal to help traders to use and access information on regional and bilateral agreements such as RCEP, Cambodia-China FTA, Cambodia-Korea FTA, Cambodia-UAE CFTA to facilitate and promote trade for export. And furthermore, Cambodia also the beneficiary of Australia Fund for Regional Trade for Development, or T4Ds, to leverage the economic cooperation under UNSFATA and RCEP. So you can see that a lot have been done, and the Aid for Trade program is very valuable for LDC, including Cambodia, which is very much contribute to economic growth, job creation, women empowerment, poverty reduction, and sustainable development. You can see that a lot have been achieved, but more need to be done to realize the people's vision to become upper middle income country in 2030s and high income country in 2050. So therefore, our collective effort, the effort of the people of Cambodia and the government of Cambodia, and also the continued support from partner countries, including Australia, I do believe that we can achieve our goal and bring development to the country and bring prosperity to the people of Cambodia. I thank you so much for your attention. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Very fascinating that, Your Excellency Kamrang, you've jumped straight into e-commerce and digital trade. And indeed, the fruits of the efforts that you've been making in terms of your digital trade policy are already evident. I would like to congratulate both Senator Yondon Farrell, our Trade Minister, for the huge efforts he's made in championing the WTO agreement on e-commerce, along with his counterparts in Singapore and Japan, because I do see this as the key to unlocking what is already the fastest growth trend in global trade. But I also want to really congratulate Cambodia as being one of those countries that has been negotiating in that joint statement initiative negotiation from over a period of years, and is there today and amongst the countries that are looking forward to the next step. And so it's marvelous to see Cambodia there and ready to take advantage of that new opportunity for trade integration, which that agreement offers. So I'm sure we will come back to some of the detail of that, but I will turn next to Sylvie Salanoa before we return. And unless, of course, Minister Farrell, I'm not sure how long you can stay with us, but if you'd like to make any remark at this point, I give you the floor.
Am I on?
Yes.
Yep. No, I'm just here to learn things. So I'm happy to keep the ball rolling. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're all keen to learn what it is that developing countries themselves and the change agents in those economies see as needed. So Sylvie, over to you with your 20-year business experience in Samoa.
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing us to share a glimpse of our journey with Mailelani Samoa Body Care. I'm going to introduce myself first. So my husband, Kitiona Salanoa, is from Samoa, and I am Sylvie Salanoa, originally from Switzerland, Geneva. After spending 10 years in Switzerland, I suggest we moved to Samoa, and in 1998, with our daughters, we set out on this new adventure. We knew that coming to Samoa had a purpose, and we wanted to contribute to the growth of our community in Samoa. It wasn't long before we discovered that coconut oil was the ingredient with endless possibilities here in our small island. Through trial and error and a few hiccups along the way, we found ourselves on a path that turned into something far bigger than our little family ever imagined. And this is the reason why we called our business Mailelani. It means from heaven. We know that this amazing journey is divinely guided, and it is in next to heaven place. Mailelani is our expression of gratitude for the abundant blessings that we Polynesians have enjoyed for generations. Almost 20 years later, here we are with an entire skincare range available in several countries. Mailelani Body Care is a family business which aims to share the unique flavor of Samoa with the outside world through handmade products using exotic and natural resources. Our products are made with respect for nature. We are committed to sustainable development, providing employment for our community and our farmers. The goal is to provide export income to Samoa. Over the years, we've had the blessing to receive aid for trade, mostly from Australia, but also from New Zealand, Japan, the European Union, and more recently, Great Britain. This support has been focused on helping us grow our export. In the early days, we received aid for trade mainly from Australia and New Zealand. We attended cosmetic expos and training that offered networking and learning opportunities, helping us to stay informed on industry trends. Later, New Zealand helped us secure a chemist, and the European Union contributed factory equipment that improved the quality of our products. The tremendous support we have received over the years has been essential in helping us progress toward growth and export readiness. We are indeed extremely grateful. I'm going to get more into detail with the e-commerce challenges. E-commerce and export are our primary goals. This is why we are grateful and excited for the opportunity to share our experience with you today. Having worked in IT in Switzerland, I knew that a website was crucial for our business. However, in 2001, we were ahead of our time. Being in the islands or in Samoa, we were quite ahead of our time. It was not easy, not an easy task. We faced expensive internet, slow speeds, and the inability to make online payments. Despite the challenges of being unable to sell online, our website provided valuable exposure. We have seen a significant improvement in internet services in Samoa. E-commerce is now thriving with more people using the internet for business purposes, but at a national level. However, at an international level, e-commerce remains a struggle as it is not possible yet to e-trade directly from Samoa. I want to say that I have heard the last few days that we've always had a lot of talk about the issue of not being able to trade via the internet. But it sounds like the last few weeks, it's really coming more positive that we might be soon able to start doing payment online. So that's good news. So the other issue by doing e-commerce from Samoa, it's the posting. So posting small orders is highly expensive, let alone the cost of express freight companies. Breaking into international e-trade has been our greatest challenge. In 2018, we applied for a New Zealand business license and finally had the opportunity to secure space with a logistic agency in Auckland to store our products. This partnership made it much easier to serve and satisfy our stockists across New Zealand and other countries in a simple and efficient way. We handle all communication from Samoa, taking customer orders from stockists, shops, or individual ordering directly from our website or email. The warehouse is responsible for packing and dispatching to our clients. Thanks to our Auckland logistics system, our business survived the COVID lockdown as we were able to send stock via sea freight to our warehouse. Ironically, our highest e-sales were during COVID-19. However, since the borders reopened, our e-sales have slowed due to economic instability, high cost of living, and increase in posting rate. However, our focus stays on our online market, not just in New Zealand, but also by finding ways to replicate our New Zealand strategy in Australia. And if I can just say that we do think that e-commerce is is the way to grow a market overseas, but I'm not sure if it's directly from the islands, and if we have to have a base in a bigger country to be able to do this, but I'm coming up to now. We face two main challenges: the lack of stable market, geographical isolation. Being distant from international markets such as Australia presents significant challenges, including unfamiliarity with local market dynamics and limited access to established distribution channels. This lack of connectivity complicates our ability to understand and enter the market effectively. So now I want to thank you to all of you, to all the ones who organize, for us as Malelani to be able to present our suggestion. So really, it's a real opportunity, and we feel honored to be able to give some of our suggestions with you. And this is based on nearly 20 years of experience. Our first suggestion as a receiver of grant is that aid for trade agencies create, if that would be possible, to create a database of trusted consultants with successful track records. This will make it easier for businesses to find the right expertise without the risk of hiring consultants who might not meet expectations or respond to the real need. I understand that it is difficult because I believe that for us here, it's important to have consultants that come from overseas, but at the same time, we understand that it might be difficult for the consultant from overseas to understand how people work here in Samoa. It's different understanding, and also lack of how do you say that? Yeah, we don't have all the resources that bigger country have. Our second suggestion is to allocate part of the grant budget to hire a business advisor who can help the grantee to assess if the grant will truly address the business' most pressing needs. In the Pacific Islands, we often work with limited resources, sometimes in survival mode. Having an advisor could provide valuable support before finalizing the grant decision. Additionally, this expert will connect us with trusted professionals, saving us from the difficult task of finding the right consultants or suppliers on our own, which is especially challenging due to our geographic isolation and limited access to business hubs. Unfortunately, this distance, whether physical or due to knowledge gaps, has often left us disconnected from the most suitable consultants or supplier. And I could give example later if you want to. These two suggestions could be a win-win. Donor agencies will optimize their budgets, while small business would be able to grow faster and more efficiently, leading to more successful business project overall. I would also like to add here other challenges and suggestions put forward for aid for trade in general by the Samoan Association of Exporters, including the challenges such as freight costs, compliance with Australian biosecurity regulations, and other standards, and vulnerability to external shocks, including climate change. These are SAME, the Manufacturer Export Association. These are their suggestions. Improving transportation and logistic infrastructure, such as through port upgrades, cold storage facilities, and digital infrastructure. Help Samoan producers meet Australian regulatory standards, particularly around biosecurity and food safety, supporting product development and market diversification. Australia could encourage Australian businesses to invest in Samoa or create partnerships with Samoan enterprises, particularly in sectors like tourism, renewable energy, and agribusiness. Australia could help Samoa build resilience to climate change and natural disasters by supporting climate adaptation projects, sustainable agriculture, and disaster preparedness. And for me, for us as Malelani, our final suggestion would be that we believe that instead of sharing small amount of funding to everyone, it would be better to concentrate the support more on businesses that are export ready and that have proven they have significant potential for success. Once these businesses are supported to grow and become successful, they will be able to operate without needing continuous external help. They will become financially stable and able to sustain themselves in the long term. This in turn helps the overall economy by creating jobs, generating income, and reducing dependency on outside aid or other resources. The success of these businesses can be then used as a model with aid for trade support directed toward the next group of export-ready businesses, helping them achieve their success. This can include support for setting up distribution hub or connecting businesses with local partners who can handle international shipping and regulations, expo and training specifically tailored for the Australian market. For businesses in remote areas like the Pacific, creating reliable, affordable logistics solution overseas will really boost export. Aid for trade staff from donor countries, Aid for trade staff from donor countries should have business knowledge and business experience because it will allow them to better understand the practical needs and challenges faced by businesses. Experienced staff can guide grantees more effectively through complex market requirements, ultimately increasing the chances of sustainable business success in the region they support. We strongly believe that it is perfectly possible to reach our goal if we are connected to the right people. And I will finish with, it's not adding more finance, which we would be very thankful if you would, but it's not really adding more finance, but using it more efficiently. I would be more than happy to continue the conversation if you allow me to. Finally, thanks again very much to the Minister of Trade and DFAT in Australia for giving me the great opportunity to share our heart with you and for your ongoing aid for trade support, and to IT and Jim for organizing the webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sylvie, and particularly for giving us a bit of a flavour both from the individual business perspective and from the association perspective, because there were some quite marked differences there in the way you saw things. What I'm just going to take a minute before turning to Rebecca, if you don't mind, Rebecca, by just suggesting a couple of questions I have already for Sylvie that she might reflect on when we come back to Q&A, but one that I thought maybe Your Excellency Kamrang could help us with straight away. Because Sylvie has set up this notion that, you know, when we talk about aid for trade for micro and small and medium-sized enterprises. We often say on the one side that it's about helping those small businesses adopt digital tools, about digital adoption in the economy. And we also talk at a very different, much more macro level about connectivity and digital infrastructure, which is a kind of much more a national priority than looking at it from the point of view of the individual SME. And of course, when we come to aid for trade and the focus that Sylvie's calling for, that question of where the change agent is becomes very important. And I wondered, Kamrang, if you might give us a perspective. I noticed that Sylvie mentioned a number of times the problems with post and express freight logistics around small packages crossing borders. And this is one area where I think Cambodia actually has had quite a lot of success in digitalizing the customs processes at the border, which really have been very facilitative of electronic commerce, which is a more macro sort of intervention. And I wondered from your perspective, when you're juggling, what you need to do whole economy wide on the digital side and what you need to do particularly with the business community. Would you like to make some comments, Your Excellency, on that question?
Professor Jane, I thank you for your questions. So, and thank you for the Mrs. Sylvia for sharing the SME experience. So allow me to share my viewpoints on the challenge, also what we have done for the SME, especially using the digitalization. Like I previously mentioned on the Go for Ecom project, which is we received fund from the EIF, the donor multi-donor trust fund, including Australia members. And in these projects, there are components, which is one is provide the upgrade skill, digital skill to the SME, especially for women. And second is to organize, set up the e-commerce platform we call CambodiaTrade.com. And in this platform, the SME, the women that have this product, they can put up their product and sell online, but free because we're using this aid for trade funding to set up the establish the e-commerce platform. So there are more than 1,500 products online, and right now we upgraded. So the point is, usually the SME is not really, they can be on board because of this formalization registration. Usually they are outside, and also because we collect the women-owned enterprise from provinces, so usually it's not registered. So we have them to register and put online. So that's why we provide training how they can use technology to take benefit from this platform. Another part is you're talking about these logistics, the delivery. So we have the component to link between Cambodian Post with the DHL and also the custom. Three bodies have to work together to facilitate this talent of the SME so that they can export. Otherwise, they cannot make it hard, because the first time we start, the product have to live at the Cambodia Post, and the buyer has to go and pick up. So we cannot do that. So that's why we bring all these three together so they can facilitate. So the role of this custom agent very important on this we call digital trade facilitation. So I do believe that it's a new term that we can think of in the future, so that we can direct aid for trade to consider this program on digital trade facilitation. Right now in Cambodia, the custom department, they set up the what we call the ASEAN system, the electronic for the custom clearance. So very successful. Before, when we start, only 15 checkpoint along the border have been set up, but right now almost all these points, the border point have been installed to use this ASEAN system. But the point is, even we're talking about digital economy, we're talking about digital government, digital business, and digital people. So digital government, we need to look into these three main components. The human capital, very important, public sectors who provide the system, and also the people, the private sectors who need to use the system. So capacity building for both, very important for both sides. Another one is all these infrastructures. We're talking about the computer, we're talking about the internet, we're talking about the broadband, how people can leverage using the system when they don't have the internet or when the energy is cut off, it's gonna be trouble. Even our ministry, we put the company registration, the certificate of origin online, but sometimes our staff cannot download because of the slow energy running. So infrastructure very important. Another one is the online services. Online services, the role of the public sectors, the digital government. So the government established the policy on economic and social policy, digital policy, but not all of the ministry institutions set up this provide online services. They still have like the step to moving into this direction. But also we experience that even the one who provide online services is not fully online. We need to click online, but have to print out and sign, stamped by the minister or the management. So I believe that we need to move forward and to speed up this process. So if we can set up fully systemized, and also when we export, there's another challenge. Some countries cannot accept, still not accept the digital signatures. Some countries still accept paperwork. So there also connection, the challenge also connection. So in sum up, I think that we should work together, public sectors, private sectors, and also how we can use the aid for trade to really directly respond to the need of the countries. Another one is I want to talk about the supply side constraint. Sylvia mentioned she done fantastic job. These beautiful products. But I can see there are challenge for LDCs on the supply side constraints. How can we help the producers, the SME, to increase their product so they can play better in these global value chains? There's still a challenge. I believe Professor know all of these challenge. So they are also part of diversified products. In case Cambodia, we still need to work on that. And also diversified market, especially for the LDC, which is moving to graduation. We understand the challenge on these trade preference erosions. So how can we be prepared on that when all the preference is decrease, and how can we still maintain our market, still can provide export our product to the world. So there's a connection, Another challenge is recently they're coming up on this trade and environment, the new policy of EU, which is respond to the climate change. So we're still talking and try to find a way how our SME, how our exporters can respond, comply with all these new policy regulations. So there are a lot of work that we need to do on this situation. So we need to catch up, otherwise we're gonna be left behind. So that's my response to your question.
Thank you very much. Well, a remarkable explanation of all the various enabling factors there behind digital enablement, and the focus that you gave us both on the work that needs to be done at the infrastructural level and also at the regulatory level. Thank you for mentioning electronic signatures, and thank you for mentioning e-invoicing. I mean, these are key provisions in this new WTO agreement on e-commerce. So I'm just going to put Sylvie on notice to answer something later and then turn to Rebecca. So what I was hoping Sylvie might come back to is this question of e-payments, which is also covered in this new agreement, the world's first ever governance, on e-payments. In many bilateral and regional agreements, we've seen work done on the other aspects of trade facilitation in the digital economy, but e-payments, this is really a first, and it's so utterly important that that portal is available, and that is so often a matter of regulatory inefficiencies. So Sylvie, I want you to come back if you can to e-payments later, because you've had a lot of experience there. And I turn, Rebecca, I'm sorry for that delay, but I know that you also are going to look at both that more macro and the more micro sets of hurdles in the way. So over to you. Thank you.
Jane?
Yes, Minister, please.
Jane, unfortunately, one of my other portfolios is electoral reform, and we've just introduced some major legislation, and I'm going to have to go and talk about it on the media, but can I thank you for the opportunity of speaking with you? I've been really impressed, and particularly Excellency. So thank you very much, and have a great afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, for joining us. So, Rebecca, over to you.
Well, thank you, Jane. And I'd like to also thank Minister O'Farrell for his opening remarks and highlighting Australia's work internationally and ongoing commitment to aid for trade. I'd like to thank Peter, Jim, and everyone else at the University of Adelaide's Institute of International Trade, and of course, fellow panelists, Your Excellency Kamranga and Sylvie Salanoa. And all of those who are attending in person and online, thank you all for being here. It's a privilege to be part of this topical discussion, which goes right to the heart of our region's shared interest in expanding economic connectivity, resilience, and prosperity for our peoples. I'd like to start by first introducing the Australian Funded Market Development Facility. MDF today is supporting sustainable and inclusive growth in 6 countries: Sri Lanka, Timor-Leste, Fiji, Vanuatu, Samoa, and Tonga. MDF has been operating for 13 years, and in its present phase, MDF is a $140 million investment over 10 years, with New Zealand co-financing our work in Vanuatu, Samoa, and Tonga. MDF identifies and helps to unlock economic markets that have a high potential for growth and profitability, and which benefit poor communities and have a positive environmental impact. E-commerce and digital technologies are playing a key role in a number of MDF's market interventions, and I will be presenting some case studies shortly. More generally, across MDF's 6 countries, agriculture and tourism are key sectors in which we work, and around half of MDF's partnerships are supporting climate adaptation and mitigation, including the transition to renewables. MDF is making a tangible contribution to economic development and is a top priority for countries in our region. So how does MDF work? MDF works by helping to catalyse business innovation by making small but strategic co-investments, primarily with business partners, but also with governments and NGOs and a wider range of partners, to reduce the cost and risk of innovation and promote inclusion. MDF also works with partner governments to develop strategies for supporting sectors that can drive economic growth and diversification. MDF is sector agnostic. It can work in any market where there is growth potential. And its key to success is its flexible blend of support. This includes technical assistance, market insights, networking, and co-investment. And this blend of support can be tailored to suit businesses' needs. Another key factor is MDF's investment in local teams of business advisors and analysts. 90% of MDF employees and national staff based in country. So I was interested to hear Sylvie talking about the need for that type of technical assistance. MDF currently has about 100 investments overall that are helping to develop new markets across the 6 countries. And in many of these cases, e-commerce and digital technologies are playing a role in creating new market opportunities. So I'd like to highlight 3 case studies from our portfolio that show how MDF is helping businesses in the region harness the potential of e-commerce and digital technology. My first case study is MDF's partnership with the business process outsourcing sector in Fiji. In this case, digital technology and connectivity have created an opportunity for a whole new sector to flourish, diversifying Fiji's economy and creating new skilled jobs, particularly for women. MDF first identified the sector's potential in 2018, and the COVID pandemic proved to be the catalyst for its takeoff. Fiji proved the ideal choice for Australian and New Zealand businesses in particular, but not exclusively, who were looking for alternatives to their pre-existing outsourced services arrangements. Fiji offers good internet connectivity, a skilled workforce, English language speakers, time zone advantages, and proximity to those Australian and New Zealand businesses. So digital technologies have obviously played the enabler of this sector to grow, and they've also played a key role in the work that MDF's done with Outsource Fiji, enabling a series of marketing campaigns and webinars that have helped to position Fiji with large offshore companies. For the Fiji government, the decimation of the tourism sector during the pandemic meant that economic diversification emerged as a top priority, and the government has stepped up and evolved its support for the sector over time, including providing critical funding for the Industry Association, creating new incentives for investors looking to set up in Fiji, and establishing strategic partnerships with Google and Starlink to improve internet connectivity. Currently, the sector is working with the government to strengthen Fiji's cybersecurity laws as large overseas companies look at cybersecurity when choosing where to outsource their services. Foreign investors are responding. 7 new investors have registered in 2022-23, and a further 4 began operations in that same year. The growth of the outsourcing industry in Fiji is also creating new opportunities for local businesses. Industry Association membership rose from 7 to 36 between 2017 and 2025. According to Outsource Fiji, the outsourcing industry now provides employment to over 8,000 Fijians and contributes 160 million per year to the Fiji economy. And the industry and Fiji government have ambitious plans for its expansion. Turning now to my second case study, I'm focusing on MDF's partnership with TripAdvisor to promote tourism in Timor-Leste. Digital technologies and e-commerce offer exciting opportunities for Timor-Leste, in particular noting Australia's support for the development of the country's first subsea cable. MDF has identified that digital platforms can support Timor-Leste's still nascent tourism sector to grow, in line with the government's priorities for diversifying its economy. MDF research in 2023 indicates that although tourism numbers are low, up to 1.6 million Australians have some interest in travelling to Timor-Leste. So MDF is helping to convert this potential Australian market into paying travellers. As part of this, MDF has formed a partnership with TripAdvisor, and it's a first of its kind destination marketing partnership that seeks to leverage TripAdvisor's world-class digital platform to promote Timor-Leste to tourists. Using TripAdvisor, local businesses, including hotels, transport providers, tour operators, craft vendors and restaurants, can directly market and sell their services online to tourists. With TripAdvisor, we are supporting Timorese businesses to increase their presence on the platform and providing training to help them maintain and manage their online reputation. MDF also plans to co-invest with interested businesses and the Timorese Hotels Association to develop digital marketing strategies and marketing content. So this will all help to promote Timor-Leste as an exciting new destination for tourists and create new inclusive business and employment opportunities. My third case study is MDF's partnership with the Sri Lankan fintech solution provider Agritmix, through which we've helped deploy a tamper-proof automated digital procurement system for tea. As Sri Lanka has been emerging from its 2022 economic crisis, agricultural technology is attracting renewed investment, leveraging Sri Lanka's thriving digital solutions services sector. Tea remains a key export crop for Sri Lanka and a key livelihood for rural communities. Around 500,000 smallholder farmers supply over 500 registered tea factories in Sri Lanka. But tea supply chains in Sri Lanka are still characterised by manual processes, which are onerous and prone to human error and pilferage. Manual scales are routinely tampered with, and pilferage can lead to up to 15% income loss for farmers. MDF's partnership with Agritmix aims to increase the transparency of the tea procurement process and eliminate malpractice through the introduction of digital weighing scales, geotags, and app-based recording. Farmers benefit from much faster payments, reduced from 3 weeks to 2 days, and, of course, the prevention of tampering and income loss. And tea factories benefit from improved relations with their farmer base and a more transparent supply chain. Piloting the digital solution with a single tea factory so far has resulted in over 2,600 farmers and their households, 52% of whom are women, benefiting from an increased income. So what are some of the lessons that the market development facility can offer? Well, there is no one-size-fits-all solution to applying digital technologies and e-commerce at the market level to help expand markets and trade. MDF takes first of all, MDF takes into account the current situation in each country, including internet reliability and speed, digital literacy among market actors, and the nature of the local fintech sector, for example. And secondly, MDF looks at the specific business case for adopting a new technology. Is the value it creates for customers and users sufficient to justify the costs, including the changes to business practices that are needed? And thirdly, beyond the adoption of the technology itself, e-commerce requires savvy content creation. MDF is working with tourism operators, for example, to develop excellent material for marketing their services to international travellers, especially video content to promote their services. And sometimes digital solutions lie outside the individual markets, and I'm really pleased Sylvie raised this as an example, because in Tonga, for example, where there is currently no e-payment gateway, MDF is working with ANZ Bank to establish the country's first e-payment gateway, and this will enable hotel operators and exporters to receive online payments directly, which is pretty fundamental, as Sylvie's noted, for selling products online and making the most of these technologies. So MDF's approach shows that digital solutions, when they are underpinned by market analysis and part of a broader package of support to partners, can help to improve and expand markets in ways that improve livelihoods and create new economic opportunities. I would like to finish by expressing my strong appreciation for the Australian government's commitment to aid for trade and to programs such as MDF as part of its strategy for building social inclusive prosperity through access to markets. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Wonderful examples. I mean, we hear all the time that digitalization is on the one hand about more efficient trade, particularly in merchandise goods, but that it's also about whole new ways of doing international trade, doing international business. And all three of your examples were absolutely future growth areas from all of them digital, and we had there the pure services BPO story. I loved your example of the cybersecurity standards being critical to growth in that sector, and then the application of digital enablement to another services sector, tourism, again, fundamental to the growth of that sector, and then seeing the fintech application in an agricultural sector. So absolutely the future direction. I have one quick question for you, which is to what extent is that focus on services and digital delivery as well as digital enablement part of your whole portfolio, and how new is it? And when you've commented on that, I'm going to give Sylvie a chance to mention e-payments, please, and then I'm going to have to move straight to David Yardley because where time is now very short. So Rebecca and then Sylvie.
Well, look, without being heretical in this forum, the market development facility, as I noted, is agnostic. It doesn't specifically go in to promote international trade, nor does it specifically go in to promote uptake of digital technologies. But as I tried to highlight, that as part of looking at where there is opportunity for growth, and particularly growth that's going to create a broad base of livelihood opportunities and jobs, it through the examples I gave, it shows that digital technologies and e-commerce in a number of ways are part of what MDF does. So the business process outsourcing sector and other sort of, and tourism marketing, has emerged as I think it's created opportunities really to promote new destinations, and it's coupled with, in MDF's case, thinking about the type of tourists that these more distant locations that aren't going to be super cheap can offer. So MDF, I talked about content creation and those sorts of things. MDF can really work with a range of different actors and think about what it is that's special about these places. So promote environmentally conscious tourism and those sorts of things. So there's a whole package there of which the digital marketing is part. And I think Sylvie really illustrated that through the deep dive into her experience, that there's the product itself, and then there's all the marketing and the enabling technologies and regulation that is all part of this. So I can't say that there's a deliberate portion of the portfolio that's looking at these things, but it's definitely there as in a whole stack of different ways. And digitization in the agriculture sector, there's a whole raft of examples. I tried to choose three very different examples from three different countries. So.
Thank you. I was very struck by, the BPO sector can't take off without telecoms opening up and improvement in internet speed, etc. And that is part of the fundamental digital infrastructure side of it again, along with the regulatory and trade policy side. So a quick couple of sentences only, Sylvie, because we've got to wind up very soon.
Can you ask me specifically what?
My question was, you said that the e-payments problem was about to be resolved. How is it about to be resolved?
Yeah, so I heard, but I don't know when it's going to be, but I know that the government of Samoa have been working on trying to open that market, the e-sales, but I am not sure when. Right. So until then, everybody is trying to find solutions.
Excellent.
A long time ago, I had approached some of the like the post office and other freight companies to ask them if we will get all the exporters together as under one name, if they would be willing to bring the cost down. This never really, it hasn't happened yet.
Well, as long as it's on the agenda, Sylvie, because
Yeah, so
no trade can take place if you can't pay for it. So it's
yeah.
pretty important. But I do have to hand over immediately now, if you don't mind, to David Yardley, who was Australia's chief negotiator on the Joint Statement Initiative on Electronic Commerce, Assistant Secretary with Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much, Jane, and it's an absolute privilege to give a few short closing remarks. My sincere thanks, obviously, to the Minister, to Her Excellency Kamrang, to Sylvie Salanoa, Rebecca Warner, and also to you, Jane, and to IIT. It's been a really, outstanding panel with so many interesting perspectives that come together around these themes. So the discussion really has touched on two of my professional passions. As Jane's just mentioned, I was chief negotiator for the JSI, but also I had the honour to lead Australia's delegation to this year's WTO Global Review of Aid for Trade. So I just want to try and draw together a few of the points today and highlight a couple of thoughts. As Her Excellency's remarks illustrated, the digital economy is a reality. It's full of opportunities and full of challenges. So we must seize every opportunity to make progress on global rulemaking, that's the trade policy side, and ensure that developing countries and LDCs can benefit from digital trade. So that's the aid for trade side. They really are a marriage that needs to be maintained. And I think it's also really clear from today that digital trade is firmly established in development discourse. So that's big progress from some time ago. One of the things I remember hearing from least developed countries at the Global Review on one of the panels I took part in, it's just really stayed with me, was that LDCs don't want to engage in the digital economy because it's trendy. They want to access it because it is a path to modern growth. So the important role that Aid for Trade is playing in ensuring that access is reflected in the 31% increase in ICT-related disbursements since 2020, so a near doubling over 5 years. A few of the thematic threads, I think, today. So as we heard from the Minister, and as we heard really vividly from Sylvie's presentation, businesses of all sizes, particularly micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, which are the backbone of most economies, benefit from ambitious, inclusive digital trade rules. It just makes it so evident to hear from that business. It's not just tech companies and it's not just big companies that we're talking about when it comes to digital trade. And ensuring developing countries benefit has been a really important part of that WTO e-commerce JSI. So that's why Australia and many others work so hard to ensure that that joint statement initiative, those digital trade rules, they provide for tailored development assistance. For example, it's the first time in a WTO agreement to have explicit expectations around needs assessments to properly understand the sort of specific challenges that have been talked about today for making the most of digital trade. Another theme that we've touched on a bit is digital trade and women's economic empowerment. And Her Excellency highlighted Australia's $48.7 million regional trade for development initiative that responds to ASEAN-led priorities with 7 programs in Cambodia, including some on gender. We also heard this from Rebecca, and some of those programs like those supported by MDF have a real impact on the ground, even in traditional sectors like agriculture. So digital trade is vital in this question about women's economic empowerment going into the future because of its lower barriers for entry, better access to customers, facilitation of flexible work arrangements. So I'm really happy to say that Australia's new international development program recognises that gender inequality compounds the most pressing global development challenges. And we know, as has been said today, billions of women and girls in developing countries remain unconnected to the internet. So Aid for Trade has a really important role to play addressing that kind of inequality. And Australia is proud to be supporting women entrepreneurs in our region to participate effectively in the digital economy. The last thing I wanted to mention is just about connectivity. It's come up a number of times. Her Excellency highlighted it. Sylvie told us firsthand how important it is for small businesses. We heard from Rebecca about the importance of public-private partnerships. Without digital connectivity, e-commerce cannot thrive. So the rules have to be supported with the connectivity, with these sorts of development efforts as well. Australia invests billions of dollars in projects in telecommunications, transport, trade in the Indo-Pacific, like the infrastructure financing facility, which is doing work on submarine cable systems to secure digital connectivity across the region. So today has convinced us even more. Australia will continue to shape the creation of digital trade norms that help promote solutions to burgeoning development needs of our region and promote a fair and prosperous digital economy. And we'll continue to work hard to ensure that agreed high-quality e-commerce rules benefit society, they're commercially meaningful, they promote development, and they help to address those digital divides between developing and developed countries, between genders, between rural and urban populations, etc. So thank you all again for joining the webinar and engaging in such a stimulating conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. It's quite clear from your remarks that implementation of the new WTO agreement on e-commerce is going to require a lot of capacity building and technical assistance. And it's great to hear that Australia's Aid for Trade will continue to be responsive to those requirements. I hope Cambodia's putting in its needs assessment process. And look, I must, given the time, turn immediately to Jim Redden, Senior Lecturer in Aid for Trade at the University of Adelaide, to wrap up and close the webinar. Thank you very much to everyone. Jim, over to you.
Good. Yeah. Thanks, Jane, and thank you, David. Can you hear me okay, Jane? Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks again, David. You made a number of the points that I was going to make in the summary, so you've done an excellent job and your points were highly relevant. And look, for everyone, I know we didn't get around to question time, but if you have any particular questions or insights, comments you'd like to make or feedback, please feel free to put them in the chat box right now or to email us at IIT in due course when you have a moment. We'd love to hear your feedback. For me, the only thing I'd mention that perhaps didn't come up abundantly clear was the important role Aid for Trade makes in contributing to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which nearly all countries in the world are signed up to, as we know. So, for example, SDG 8 talks about the importance of increasing aid for trade, especially to least developed countries. SDG 17 focuses on the importance of decent work, trade, and economic growth. And hence, Minister Farrell stated from the outset, that's why Australia wants to reinforce and maintain a strong commitment to the provision of aid for trade in the Indo-Pacific region. And I think Australia achieving 22% of ODA is a very good result and compares well internationally. We just now need to increase overall ODA. Look, on behalf of the Institute for International Trade, can I sincerely thank the Minister for Trade and Tourism, Senator Don Farrell, for his valuable opening comments and his ongoing support for Aid for Trade, whether that be through the WTO, regionally, or bilaterally. To all our panelists, Her Excellency Kamrang, Sylvie, and Rebecca, thank you for your time and your outstanding contributions. They're really useful. And of course, to our excellent moderator, Jane, for keeping it all together. I also just want to thank quickly DFAT, who have partnered with IIT to present this webinar. And we look forward to working closely with you on similar Aid for Trade events into the future, whether they be on climate change resilience, agricultural market access, workforce development, or whatever. And special thanks to you again, David, Shannon, Caroline, Hussein, and the DFAT team. So a final reminder to all of you that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the IIT website by early next week. As I said, if you have a question or feedback, we will attend to it as best as we can and as soon as we can. And speaking of that, at the Institute for International Trade, can I say thank you in particular to Jade and Sarah, who were the digital support people who made this webinar work. Last but not least, thank you to all of you, our participants, for your interest and your support for the event. Any feedback welcome, and I wish you all a very pleasant and peaceful weekend. Thank you. Bye.